Hello, my name is Kirioth and welcome to this week's Community Spotlight. I apologise for it being a day late, but as you can hear, my voice has been just coming and going the last couple of days. But I wanted to record this because there's some cool stuff that you guys have sent. This probably won't be as long as the other ones, just because I'm going to have to be careful as to how much I talk. But we're going to take a look at some cool stuff. And we're just going to go straight in, because I do enough waffling as it is, let's be honest. So this is a Black Templar Primaris army from Spanish Omelette. Excellent name, love it. And you can see that there are some really nice additions that properly bring out the Black Templar flavour for these guys. So there's some head swaps that have gone on. It looks like some Imperial Fist heads from Forge World. The use of chains to attach the bolt guns to the wrists of the Marines. The Maltese cross stuff as well, which, again, changes like that, things like just a head swap or a shoulder pad swap, things like adding a few extra purity seals here and there, or the use of chains in this specific example for this army, it adds so much more personality to the Primaris Marines. Don't get me wrong, I like how they look standard, but little changes like that can really bring a lot of flavour to those models, because they look sleek and uniform in a way that standard Tactical Marines don't. There's more variation in standard Tactical Marines, I think, when it comes to helmets especially. Primaris can look very samey, which is great if you want that kind of sleek modern look, but for things like Black Templars, actually swapping stuff out, it kind of brings some of the more, I guess, like the more robust side of things out for these models. There's also some really nice paintwork, especially on the bare heads on some of the Marines. The faces look really good. There's some nice detail there. I like the way the Captain in Gravis armour has been painted. The gold really stands out from the black. And something that I really like, that I'd like to see more of, just more people do in general, is plasma weaponry. Typically blue is the colour that people go for when it comes to the actual, I want to say plasma coils, but I don't know if that's actually what it's called, but the plasma-y bit of the plasma weapon. Just changing that for something else can add a lot of personality. It can add a lot of contrast to models. I never paint them the same colour. I always paint them a colour that will complement something that's on the model. And in this case, using orange instead of blue or green, I think works really, really well. Having the eye lenses of the helmet match is a really nice touch as well. It's a really good army. I really do like the use of chains, the helmets and the head swaps. It properly brings it all together, makes it look properly Black Templar. Next up, we have a bunch of conversion work from Devil's Advocate, and there's some really nice stuff in here, including just full-on green stuff sculpting. So what we've got to start with is some Deathwing Terminators. These guys are from the Assault on Black Reach box, but they've been changed. What he's done is he's essentially chopped the models in half and reposed the torso to make them look, make them look different to how they are out of the box. I really like seeing stuff like this, where people take the big, like the starter sets or, the easy to build models and customize them, chop them up and turn them into something a little bit different. You don't have to do a huge amount, but just, cutting them in half and rotating the torso in relation to the legs can create different stances and different poses. And it's a really good use of those models. And it serves to make it, again, more of your own thing. Also, a really nice bit of sculpting for a Chaos Warrior that, you can see the torso is green stuff completely. Made a skeleton out of, plastic bits and then sculpted around it. The result looks really, really good. I'm not going to lie, I'm jealous of people who can do proper green stuff sculpting, because it's something I've never been good enough to even practice at. It just looks terrible. So you can also see that there's some other really nice green stuff sculpting going on for some true scale Chaos Space Marines. You can see that the legs are Terminator legs, but the torsos are just fully sculpted. Some really nice work there. You can see recognizable Chaos iconography. There's some nice kind of pipe work and stuff on some of them. Some really nice stuff, and it wouldn't be, something to make me feel inadequate if it didn't include some sort of ridiculous freehand, which this also has. The Deathwing banner is just completely freehand, which honestly, stuff like this just blows me away every time because I cannot do it. I've never been a precision painter, and it's one of those things that I would love to be able to do, but I could probably do with, just building up basic technique first instead of relying on washes to do all the hard work. There's also a really nice Terminator Chaplain conversion here as well. The shoulder pad is from like a really old metal model, Metal Chaos Lord, I think he said, and a bit of green stuff work to create a hood over the skull helm. He says it makes it passable. I think that is unmistakably a Terminator Chaplain. Some really nice work in this army. Okay, next up we have a Primanius Chapter Master conversion, and this is from, I think, Reese. You'll have to let me know if I pronounced that right. I apologise if not. And the whole message is absolutely describes it perfectly. I got Primanius for Christmas, but don't run Smurfs, so I turned him into a heretic slamming badass motherfucker, High Chaplain Chapter Master for my homebrew Marines. He'll be painted up at some point. I know that plight very well, don't worry. I love conversions like this. I love stuff like this because this isn't to downplay the effort that goes into thinking about this kind of thing or pulling it off convincingly, both of which, it's not necessarily as easy as it seems, but things like a simple head swap and a weapon swap can completely change the character of a model. It's one of the things I like most about doing. When I say small conversions, again, it's not meant to kind of put down how much work goes into it, but that, the base model is Primanius Calgar, and yet the addition of the, what is it called? It's the something, I'm sure it's the something mace from the Stormcast Eternals. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. I've used it for one of my D&D characters. But the addition of that Stormcast Eternals weapon and swapping the head out for, is it a Reaver Sergeant head? It changes the flavour of the model completely. I really like conversions like this because it shows that you can do a lot without having to change every single part of something. You can pull off something unique and different without having to, completely rework the whole thing. It looks really good. I really like that combination of hammer and helm. It works really well, gives it a right scary attitude. Next up we've got a converted Imperial Knight and some really nice paint jobs from Josh, and we'll start with the Knight because I love this thing. So that is a scary Chaos Knight. For a start, the addition of 2 battle cannons to the thermal cannon makes it a terrifying weapon. I have no idea what you would count it as, but it doesn't look like you want to get hit with it, so that's like high up on the list of priorities for anything that you kit bash weapon wise. Make it look scary. And I really like the use of the chainsword as a separate weapon. I've seen a couple of conversions like this, but this one has something I really like, which is the posing of it. So it's not just the use of other parts to create a reasonable hilt for the chainsword, but having it resting on the carapace with the power fist up and holding it in that way, supporting it like that, it looks convincingly real. It looks like it was supposed to be like that, and I think that's one of the best things to have when you've done a conversion of any kind. If you look at it and go, oh, that looks like it was meant to be like that, then you've absolutely nailed it. I really, really like the overall attitude of this model. It's really good. It's also a really nicely painted Glotkin, which it's one of the grossest models that Games Workshop's made. There is something about the bone and tusks and stuff sticking out the top of it that is just really off. And Josh has done a really good job painting that bone. To be honest, bone is one of those things where it's easy to go over the top and make it look too yellowish for me. I tend to find that sometimes you can over-weather it and it looks like it should be... It looks dead. It doesn't look like it's grown. It looks like driftwood almost. Whereas this has got the perfect mix of decay and growth at the same time. It looks like it's somehow still clinging to life, despite being damaged, which is absolutely spot on. There's some really nice, I'm assuming, use of washes there to get a good texture on it and keep it looking fresh but disgusting at the same time, which is quite an achievement, let's be honest. There's also I can't remember what his name is now, Greater Demon, but I can't remember what his actual name is. I think that's the named version of that model. But the contrast there between the greens, the yellows, and the really bright pink of those disgusting tentacles works really well. And I like the fact that the intestines have been kept kind of blood shaded as well. That's genuinely a nice thing to see. Quite often when I see this model, I see people do like the tentacles and the guts the same colour. I've always liked the idea that they're kind of separate. They're not the same thing, just in different parts of the body. And what Josh has done actually really reflects that. The tentacles look unnatural and vivid and vibrant. The guts just look like guts, which makes it all the more disgusting when you look at it. And there's a nice plague bringer down there for contrast, which I'm assuming was painted a lot earlier than this was, because again, the horn is really good. Like the horns on the head are really good, and I really like the shading on the, I was going to say weapon, staff, symbol, thing, the big old branch he's holding. And finally, there's a nice red Reaver. I'm assuming Blood Angels, but I could be completely wrong. And actually, this, you know what? I'm really glad that you sent me this, Josh, because one of my pet peeves, one of the things I don't like doing is bases. I've never been great at bases, and that Reaver is a perfect example to me of a good base that doesn't have to kill you. Not every base needs to be overloaded with detail for things like just standard infantry and stuff. Giving it a coat of like a mud effect paint or Agrax Earthshade, or indeed Agrax Earthshade, and then shading it down using washes, and the Citadel tufts of grass, or whatever tuft of grass you prefer from whatever manufacturer, it can add quite a lot to a model without you having to break your back over it. There is something to be said for those great like cork scenic bases where it looks like a shattered roadway and stuff, and I really like that stuff. But if you're trying to churn stuff out quickly, or if you're trying to get an army ready for the tabletop, you want finished bases without having to kill yourself over it, giving it like a couple of layers of some sort of, you know, mud texture paint, and then using a couple of tufts of grass, it's enough, and it looks good, and it brings contrast to the model, and it brings a bit of extra colour to the model. It makes the model stand out a bit better, and you don't have to go massively overboard. This is a really good example of a decent kind of cracked earth base that is totally appropriate for the model that's standing on it. And to finish off this week, we have a really nicely painted Rogal Dorn from Henry for a bit of Horus Heresy action. This is just a really, really well painted model. The armour looks nice and crisp, it's really even, there's nothing in the way of things like brush marks, or it's clearly been built up carefully. You can still see all of the detail, it pops really well. The shading on the cloak it makes me intensely jealous. It's really nicely done. I mean, the shading on the symbol on the back of the cloak as well, again, really nicely done. Even the detail on the Iron Warrior on the base, like those hazard stripes, are so crisp, they're so clean. And the face is pretty much perfect. I don't know how you paint a face with that much detail. It's not something I can do. I'm genuinely in awe of people who can do that. Every part of the detail on this model has been clearly treated with a lot of respect, and it really pops, it really shows. I mean, even the base looks great. Putting that amount of like effort into the dead dude on the floor is massively admirable, because I'll be honest, I don't know if I could bring myself to do it. I'd get so caught up on the main model, it would be like, okay, I've done him. Oh no, there's a base as well, quick dry brush it. But there's none of that. This is all of it. It's so well detailed, it's so well done. Just all around a lovely paint job. Now, that is it for this week's Community Spotlight. If you have any models you want to send in for the Community Spotlight, they can be 40k, they can be Age of Sigmar, they can be Horus Heresy, they can be things like War Machine or any others that require painting, Blood Bowl, Necromunda, Kill Team, all of that stuff. You can send it to kiriothcommunity@gmail.com. You'll be able to find that address in the description down below. Apologies for this one being a little bit shorter than the others, but as you can hear, my voice just isn't great, but I still wanted to do this. I'm still enthusiastic about it. I still want to show you guys, well, what you guys have been up to. So yeah, it's been some really good stuff this week. Thank you guys for sending your models in. Whatever you send, we will get round to eventually. It will happen. It will appear in a video. Trust me, believe me, it will occur. as I say, kiriothcommunity@gmail.com. Send me some pictures and stuff, and you can find it also in the description. Thank you very much for watching. Feel free to click all the things. Click it if you like, don't click it if you don't want to, and I will see you for the next one. Toodaloo.